Hey, I'm Marcus Y. Rozier. I'm excited, man. I get a chance to introduce part one of The Day I Became a Man. You get a chance to sneak peek into a candid conversation with me and some friends. I recently turned 30 years of age, and it's an exciting time to get an opportunity for my friends to give me some advice and for us to have conversation that usually would be behind closed doors. So I'm bringing you right into the first part of it. The first question is things you wish someone would have told you before you became a man. So you get a chance to sneak peek. Let me know what you think. Once you're done watching the video, send us a message on Facebook, Twitter. I'm at Marcus Y. Rozier on everything. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Just find me. Holler at me. Tell me what you think. All right. So you get a chance to get a sneak peek into a conversation that we have individually on the phone. These are guys that I respect, admire. You know, it's fantastic when your role models are your friends. So you get a chance to peek into some of the candid conversations we have about manhood, adulthood, and what I love about these guys is they're honest, they don't pack any punches. You know, any friend that won't tell you the truth is no friend at all. So,
definitely.
So first and foremost, we'll start with, what do you guys think are some of the things that you wish someone would have told you about manhood that you had to learn the hard way?
For me, I think, that it's never about you. It's never about you. It's odd sometimes. I'll wake up and I might, have some X amount of dollars in my bank, and I think, wow, I really want to just give it in the bank. And then I look over at my wife and I'm like, man, I should just pay some of these bills for a couple months. Get us, squared away versus luxuries for myself.
I agree. I think it's just selflessness.
Wow.
They don't tell you that, you don't belong to yourself. I think, as a kid, you want to grow up because you want to have your own stuff.
Yeah.
But growing up, growing up is depicted as you giving up your stuff.
Wow.
You know what I mean? That's what maturity is understanding that you have a responsibility to other people. And so if there's anything that I would have wished somebody told me is that you're never going to have your own stuff. You know what I mean? The older you get, the wiser you get, and the more mature you get, the greater your responsibility grows to other people. I wish somebody would have told me that.
Wow.
For me, I really wish that someone, primarily a male figure or my dad or whoever, would have told me the significance of relationships when it comes to women.
Mm-hmm.
I think I spent a lot of time just wasting away years that I could have been more focused in other areas by just getting in and out of relationships. Because as many of you know, we had friends who, that we looked at as examples of how to treat women. Most of them, our examples were that you have, the standard is to have 2 and 3 women. The standard is to have,
Exactly.
multiple women running after you, liking you, and you being with them. But if I really wish that I'd had someone to tell me you only need, one woman, and God has that person predestined, assigned for you from the beginning, and you need to really focus on becoming the right person. So when you meet them, you're the right person.
Right.
Because I think, I've squandered, a lot of opportunities and relationships by just wasting time not knowing that.
Wow.
Yeah, and I just to piggyback off that, I think that's extremely important to think about because, I remember before I got, met my wife and God actually told me she was my wife. So we were just friends. Like, it was weird because, it was like, I gotta tell this girl I'm just cool with, and God telling me I'm her husband, it was odd. But I remember, like before I met her, I just was like so tired of just dealing with other women. It would be like I would be in a room with her. I really don't even like you. I'm just here just to be able to tell my friends, look at this bad girl I got. Look, I'm just really here just to walk in the room and poke my chest out. And I'm like, this is really doesn't make any sense. Yeah. So I said, what, for a whole year, I'm just gonna be done with women. I'm just really trying to get myself together, So I was like, let me work out. And it was like I was already too far behind the 8 ball to really get everything fixed. My credit score was like a 400 or something. I ain't have time to fix that in a year. And then I meet my wife and she's like, well, you might need to take some financial classes because you don't even know how to handle money. You just spend everything. And I was like, I thought I got myself together. And I was just so far behind. But nobody told me that. Like, nobody told me that we would one day have to put both our names on this line. And I'm going to hurt us because I was buying Jordans.
That's good.
I think for mine was different. My father was big on
pay your bills and finance.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I came up in an upbringing with my mother and father together. But the thing I never saw was the emotional aspect of it.
Yeah.
You know, my father and I, it would be, hey boy, how many girlfriends you got?
Yeah.
You know, that ongoing joke, or how sports going, but we never had candid conversations in terms of personal development. All right, do this, do that. Now, he was gonna show me how to buy a house, he was gonna teach me real estate, but that capacity of, you never learn that it's okay to tell a woman you like her.
Right.
It's okay to change, you know, we've learned, you're around your friends, you sneak and hide to tell a girl on the phone you like her.
Yeah.
But that's a natural dynamic
Yeah.
for a man to pursue a woman, to like a woman.
Right.
But our upbringing tells us, you don't pursue a girl. Man, your nose wide open.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Look at him, he's grown.
But
Yeah.
everything we did was to get women, from the way you dressed, from the things you did if you played sports.
Right.
But everything that we did when we got the woman was to make her leave us.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Every dynamic of how we treated a woman made her feel like, well, maybe he don't like me.
Yeah.
So it's a contradiction. So I would say for me, I wish someone would have set me down and explained to me the importance of a relationship, even not just with a woman, but friendship.
Yeah.
You know, nobody really teaches you the value
Yeah,
of
exactly.
friendship, as well as when you get to college. I tell people all the time now, you'll never have access to that many people again in your life. So if someone would have told me, monopolize those relationships,
Exactly. Oh, man.
not use them, but just really hold on to them. You know, I can say I'm blessed to have a nucleus of friends, man, where it's like, I value that.
Yes, sir.
Like, I'll be 30 on Saturday, and the thing that I kept thinking about and thanking God for is relational currency. You know, the people that I have in my life, I could see, okay, this, no matter where you go, they can handle the terms of life. So that's important to me. What do y'all think are the societal strains? Like you guys mentioned some of the things in terms of squandering time and how you're taught, you know, having a couple girlfriends. Is that a cultural strain? Is that a societal strain? Is that something that hip hop culture, because we all grew up in hip hop culture, have that influenced us?
Well, I was going to say, and this kind of is a bridge between the last question and this one. I think one of the reasons why females mature faster than men is because they're given the freedom to express their emotions.
Yeah.
And I think
That's
that
right.
men having to suppress their emotion, it almost dwarfs our development in some
Very
way,
true.
because we're not honest even with ourselves.
Exactly.
We trick ourselves. You don't like her, you know, we trick ourselves out of things, and I think that it really does dwarf our development. But I do think it's cultural. I think a lack of exposure, especially in the African American community, a lot of times we have lack of exposure. Like I remember, I grew up on Gresham Road, and for the first 17 years of my life, Gresham Road was my world.
Right.
Like, I didn't know about Atlantic Station. I lived in Atlanta. I didn't know about Atlantic Station. I didn't know about Lenox Mall. And I mean, this is up into high school. All I knew was Gresham Road. And so I think that definitely it is a cultural thing.
Wow.
Yeah. No, I agree. I definitely agree, and I think that it is, you know, in our society, in African American community, you know, the amount of women you have is almost like a conquest. It's one of those things where, you know, it's a part of the fabric that makes you even important.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's that, oh, you know, such and such, he have all the women. You know, that's part of your introduction. You know, he has all the women. So, you know, that's something that you want to have. Like, I want to be that guy that everybody talks about has all the women. Or even to be able to just stick your chest out and say, man, you know me, you know I pull them. You know, I pull them. You know how I do. You know, and then come to realize that all you're really doing, you know, is hurting those women. And now those women are going to turn around and hurt somebody else because they're hurt. And now,
Then we end up marrying them.
exactly, a hurt woman who's been hurt by your clone in another city, you know, and you're trying to deal with you're spending years telling her, I'm not like all those other dudes you deal with. Yes, you are. You were that guy because everyone you knew pumped you up to be that guy, or you just was not cool.
I think it's so difficult because when we think about all the things that are in place, culturally, societal, even coming up in high school, the athletes are the ones that got the women. Then you had the guys who sold drugs. That I know some guys who legitimately did it just for the money to get the women. So they forfeited their lives and now in and out of prison to gain a certain level of reputation in the city.
Right.
To get women. But the more women they told made it to where they got caught. So when you think about the guys who were smart guys, who just real good guys, they're not getting women, but the buttholes, if you will.
Right. Exactly.
Who are known for talking to multiple women, but how do you shake that stigma for this reason? You get used to a certain level of attention as a man. You know, we all, you know, we're athletes, etc. You get used to that level of attention. So then when you get one woman that no longer praises you, and she starts, you allow yourself to open up to a woman, she sees your flaws, she's not praising you.
Yes.
She's making you correct that behavioral pattern.
Yeah.
That societal strain, that image that you betrayed, now she's making you realize, okay, you're not Superman, you're Clark Kent. So let's deal with Clark Kent.
Yeah.
How do you deal with the honesty
It
of that?
always stems back to the emotional development of the guy, because if the guy knows who he is, the woman won't intimidate him. As a matter of fact, the man will have an open line of communication for her to critique and correct him, and he doesn't feel threatened by that. See, a real man doesn't feel threatened when a woman says, hey, you can do this better, you can do this better, you can do this better, because if we're life partners, we're meant to add value to each other. So I want to hear what you have to say, and only a secure man can take that and then build off of it. It's insecure men that take that and say, well, you don't support me, all you do is nag me, all you do, you want to be my... See, that's an insecure man. He got mommy issues, he got daddy issues. He can't just look at another human being in the face, take the critique and say, okay, well, I'll take that into consideration.
Yeah, it takes time to get there.
And
It does, because everyone doesn't start out ready to take
exactly.
that.
And I think a lot of the issue is when we talk about, you know, the African American culture, and I mean, just myself, you know, I grew up in two separate worlds. There was a single mom home and then transitioned to a single father home. So, you know, my mom had too many kids and worked too much to even give you a hug. She wasn't even there. And then my dad was, I'm a man. You move and, you know, we don't do that. We don't hug each other. So I never understood which balance was which. I always saw my mom with multiple men, you know, I saw my dad with multiple women, and I never saw a healthy relationship. I didn't know anyone that was married. You know, no one in my family was married. I didn't even know anybody. I didn't even think that was cool, you know, I thought it was corny. So for me, I've always been like an extremely just overly confident guy. You know, I just believed in me. Regardless of what you say, I know I can do it. But when my wife would tell me things, it would rock my little ego. Like, man, like, you're supposed to be the one who love everything about me. And it's like, no, but that's wrong about you. And you need to fix that. And it was, I just had to personally, you know, just dig deep and realize that she's not doing this to hurt me. She's doing this to help us. And I can't keep fighting that because my little egos get bruised. You know, I have to be man enough to say ego doesn't matter. As a man, ego should never even exist. That's
how many families have we destroyed because of our egos?
Because of our egos. And then you think about that little window of those 3 months when you're first getting with somebody and everybody lovey-dovey and she treats you like the king. Most guys, after those 3 months, cut the woman off. Once that every day 5-10 text messages a day and hey babe and all this decrease, oh no, I need a new fling so I can feel puffed up again. You know, and it's all still back to what you're saying. You're not even emotionally secure enough to not be showered with praise all the time. You're craving attention that much that you don't know how to handle not being in the spotlight.
That's good.
And I just want to jump in and add to what you're saying because it's so relevant and it's good to see that other guys are going through the same thing. I'm going through the same thing. I was asking my wife, you know, I want you to, you know, tell me I'm good, praise me. You know, I want you to tell me, hey, baby, I love that I did, you know, but they don't always do that. And I'm realizing that, you know, like we're talking about on my journey to becoming a man, I realized that you have to keep being responsible in every area. You know, for example, you know, to become a man, you know, you have to take on responsibility of working, or first of all, making a commitment to get a wife. But then when you get the wife, you know, right when you're thinking, okay, I'm committed now. You have a whole other set of responsibilities and commitment to keep going. And one is to really hang in there when your wife is really doing the critiquing and telling you, babe, you know, you ain't doing this too good. You know, you need to tighten up on this. Because we really do need that. You know, as men, and I think God is designed to pull the best out of us. You know, by him being able to do that. So for a time, you know, you might not get the cheerleaders and the pom-poms and all that, but you got to hang in there as a man and not seek it in other areas.
That's good.
In other ways.
Look, there's a scripture in the Bible that says, iron sharpens iron.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Not iron sharpens cotton. You can't hit iron on something soft and it becomes better. You got to hit it on something hard. You know what I mean? So God purposely purposely, a friend sharpens a friend. God purposely takes a man and a woman. Because get this, when Adam got the revelation of Eve, the first thing he says, this is bone of my bone, and this is flesh of my flesh. Bone is hard.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And when it comes together, it can cause friction. But like you said, it's to better us, not to make us feel bad, but to better us. But again, to go back, when you're emotionally underdeveloped, and you haven't had a parent to say you are good.
Exactly.
This is who you are. You know who you are. Every time she says something, it almost makes you start to question.
Yes.
Am I worthy?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
Say,
the
well, am I
challenge.
good enough for you?
That's
Am I the guy that you want?
And her being with you is the answer. I'm
Yes.
with you.
Yeah.
But just
So-
that conversation scares you.
Yeah.
It frightens you. Like,
Yeah.
well, is there another guy that
Yeah.
can do all these things?
I think
Yeah.
that becomes the challenge, you know, even with, as we move from that one. I think that's when most guys cheat. Challenge with the pressure of, do I accept the reality of who I am?
Exactly.
Not the role I played for 3 months. That, you know, cut. The movie's
Exactly.
over.
Exactly.
Can I
Exactly.
accept that I'm not the person I betrayed myself and that I've become all these different things to get all these different women?
Right.
Now I've got one woman who is pointing in on who I am.
Yeah.
And what normally happens with some guys who are underdeveloped emotionally, they'll be in love with a woman, but go out and cheat to be praised by
Because
other women.
they are
Because-
addicted to the praise.
So-
It's an addiction.
So now they'll go out and get that because this other woman don't know them.
And
So now that's normally when, if they don't accept the challenge of it, they'll normally cheat because it's too much pressure on their ego.
And the craziest part of it all is, this new woman that he's going out cheating with, you know, she's seeing the guy that your wife helped create. She's seeing the guy
That's right.
Yeah.
She's benefiting from somebody else's.
Right.
That's
She's seeing the
good.
guy who's been.
Hey, I know it was getting good, but we have to stop right there. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I hope you enjoyed what you heard. So we will be back with part 2. Next time we'll be talking about a man's need for criticism versus a man's need for praise. Man, it's going to get hot and heavy on this next one. So please let me know what you think at Marcus Y. Rosia. I can't wait to hear what you thought about the first video. But you'll see us next time on part 2, the day I became a man.